What's up, guys? This is Fang/VA here, currently with video, and today, considering the fact that Wednesdays right now are my random video days, I figured I would talk to you about a different video game icon. One that really loves to collect gems, per se, that has a little dragonfly that follows him around. And in case you guys don't know what I'm talking about, well, you should. And I just pretty much gave away the basic premise of let me stress this enough here, the classic Spyro trilogy on the PlayStation 1 that was later remade into the reignited. So before we start talking about those fantastic nostalgic games from my childhood, definitely make sure to comment, like, and subscribe, and hit that bell button so that you can, get to have more videos like this, because who knows, next week I might end up doing a Crash video. Who knows? So my first memories of the Purple Dragon obviously comes from the first Spyro the Dragon. I believe that was the first one we had, and of course I never beat it. And then with Ripto's Rage, which was my favorite one, that was the Spyro game I played the most. Spyro 2 and 3 are probably my first favorite and my second favorite out of those three games. I love the opening cutscenes of each world. I love the ending cutscene of each world. I love the plot of it. As a kid, I didn't know that backtracking was a thing. But I never actually beat that game. I do know from what I remember was that my mother I think my mother actually beat all the Spyro games, but I would always help her out and all that as a kid from what I remember. And then the first time I got to experience her game was at my grandparents' house with my aunt. And I remember too, I almost got her copy, but luckily we ended up getting ourselves a copy because I wanted it so badly. I've always been a bigger fan of the Purple Dragon than the Orange Bandicoot, even though that I love both series. It's just, as a kid, I loved dinosaurs, I loved dragons, so naturally the Spyro games were games I gravitated towards the most out of those two franchises. And things haven't really changed. I still prefer the first three Spyro games than the first three Crash games. As much as people might find that shocking to believe, because Crash Bandicoot was kind of the golden boy of the PS1 era. And what always amazed me about those games was how unique the worlds look. Like in Spyro 1, I mean, you had different worlds. You had the Artisan's World, which was more like this fantasy, out of a fairy tale book, and then you had Peacekeepers, which is more like this canyon sort of looking place with like a military aesthetic to it. Then you had Beastmakers, which was more in a swamp. You had Magic Keepers, which was more about, magic. And then you had Dreamweavers. And then you had Nasty Nork's Nexus, which is, the final world, the final hub world of that game. And even the levels themselves, once you go into the portals, they're also unique and so different. And obviously in those games, you have to collect the gems and the dragon eggs in the first game, which we do not talk about those little blue, mind my French, but assholes. And if I know my editor, she's probably going to put a freaking image of one probably a gif of it doing its thing, and then there's probably going to be a sound effect of it going, nah, 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 just to torment me. But Spyro 1 was definitely the more basic one out of the 3 games. It was definitely more simple, which is which was the one thing that video game critics back then actually criticized, was how easy it was. But that was to the game's strength, because everyone played Spyro. I mean, that's why I think my mom was able to play Spyro as well as she could, was because of how basic the gameplay was. And then, of course, in Spyro 2, we got introduced to mini games, which that was another thing that was cool, that was unique about the second game. And then they had more mini games, which in this case, the mini games in the third game even included freaking skateboarding. Spyro on a skateboard. How freaking tubular 90s was that? And then, of course, you had, different playable characters in the third game. You had Sergeant Bird, you had Agent 9, you had the kangaroo, I forgot her name, and Bentley. And of course, you could even play as Sparks as well. And obviously, in the third game, the main villain was the Sorceress, and also Rebecca. But she started out as one of the villains, but she ended up becoming one of the good guys at the end of the game. Spyro 2, it was Ripto. Spyro 1, it was Nasty Nork. And those 3 games really do hold a very big special place in my heart, and I apologize for my stuttering. Like I said many times, saying certain S words. But, of course, everything comes to an end, right? Because you had the Insomniac that had to leave Spyro behind, because they didn't own Spyro. They created Spyro, but they didn't own Spyro. Universal Interactive Games owned it, which later became Universal Vivendi, and then Activision ended up buying that company, which is why they now own both Spyro and Crash. And ironically enough, Microsoft is going to be owning Activision, which means that Spyro and Crash is now technically now, and these are dark times indeed. I'm kidding. I dislike the whole console war stuff. As long as they're able to put the first 3 Spyro games on backwards compatibility, as in the freaking OG PS1 versions, I'll be happy. Unless Sony still has the publishing rights to that, then hopefully they add it to backwards compatibility. The fact that they haven't yet, along with the OG Crash games, I think it's dumb. But it is what it is. But we had other games under that. We had Enter the Dragonfly, which I do not recommend going back to that game. That game is an unfinished piece of crap. You had a Hero's Tale, which that one was pretty decent actually. You had different portable games on the Game Boy Advance, and then there was one for the DS. And then, of course, you get to the trilogy that I don't really have that much knowledge of. I'm not really interested in that trilogy, which is the Legend of Spyro trilogy. Now, these games is where the introduction of Cinder comes in, and it's more of a more serious take on Spyro. Spyro is basically this chosen one type protagonist, which was a big thing during that era, because, when that game came out, the Star Wars prequel trilogy just wrapped up, which introduced the idea that Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader is this chosen one. You had the Lord of the Ring movies ending, and then, of course, you had Harry Potter, which dealt with a chosen one type character with Harry. That was still going on at the time. So, That was a big thing during that era. So why not make Spyro like that? Actually, dare I say, Spyro is very similar, at least in... Spyro really reminds me of Lord of the Rings, as in the Legend of Spyro trilogy. And it doesn't help you had the guy that played, I forgot his name! I haven't watched those movies in who knows how long. My apologies, guys. Let me look this up real quick. Let's see here. Let's see here. Let's see. Frodo Baggins. I should have known that. And again, he's this chosen one character, and at the end of the third game, you have some of the worlds that hasn't resetted, and it's even ambiguous if Spyro and Cinder is even alive or dead, which is why there's a theory that Skylanders is those worlds that are in the sky, and we do not talk about Skylanders either, because Skylanders introduce a abomination of a Spyro design. And I'm sure my editor put it somewhere on this video. If people thought that the OG live-action Sonic movie model was bad, the Skylanders Spyro, I think, rivals it and might be a bit worse. We do not talk about that Spyro. Which is why we're going to move on to the Reignited Trilogy. The Reignited Trilogy was something that everyone was wanting after the success of the Crash N. Trilogy that brought Crash back into prominence. And I was wanting a Spyro trilogy badly, and boy did they deliver. But of course there was controversy around that time because games 2 and 3 couldn't fit on the disc. I guess more newer copies, they were able to put it on the whole disc, which I'm thinking about figuring out which version that is so I can buy it, just in case, like, for some strange reason I can't download those games on my PS5. If, like, for some strange reason the PS4 servers go down. Yeah. Well, also, too, I'm a collector of Spyro. I want to try to get every single version of a game, even if it's... I'm weird like that. But no, like, they redid a lot of the game. They added some new stuff. They even changed the dragons designs, which was probably the biggest thing they did. That really stood out to me because in the first Spyro game, they had a bad habit of reusing the same base design for all the dragons. So there was a lot of copying and pasting and a lot of, making this dragon blue, making this dragon red in the first Spyro game. But with the Reignited Trilogy, they gave all the dragons unique designs while keeping elements from the OG design. And they even added the road to all 3 games. And they even added the map to all 3 games. But it's like, I don't need no freaking map in my Spyro games. I play those games old school. I don't need no map. Plus, it's more challenging that way. I don't want to know the layout of the level, and plus, I know the freaking layout of those levels because like I said, I've been playing these games since I was a kid. And so, they brought back Tom Kenny to reprise his role as Spyro, which was a big plus, because I've always felt like Tom Kenny was, like, the best Spyro voice actor. Even though that the first game, Spyro's voice actor definitely fitted that personality of him. They changed his personality in Spyro 2 to make him not be so much of a jerk, it seems, but it is what it is. And but yeah, like, they really did a good job remaking those three games, especially since they had no source code at all. They literally had to use a emulator and literally, extract basically the bare bones of those stages. It's really incredible how much you can do with game development nowadays. If you want to remake an old game and make it faithful, but you don't have the source code, well, there's an option. And right now, there's rumors that there might be a new Spyro game being revealed on October 5th, and I'm sitting here like, I'll believe it when I see it. I've gotten tired of getting my hopes up for new games after a game's been successful, and I'm looking at you, Mega Man. But yeah, as you all can see, I love Spyro a lot. And I know that this video seems just a bunch of crap spewing out my mouth, and I want to apologize, but I want this video to come more from the heart. And also, too, I want to ask you all something. Would you all want to see dedicated videos to each of the first three games? Let me know. And just to end this off with one thing, is that there are certain games growing up that will always have that will always love unconditionally. Super Mario World is one. Kirby Superstar is another. The first three Crash games, NCTR, the first three Spyro games. And as random as it is, Hydro Thunder. If any of you know what Hydro Thunder is, we can be friends. That game is freaking amazing. A boat racing game? Heck yeah. And I remember playing the freaking arcade machine at a local Myers. Which, let me tell you, that was so much fun. But, yeah, let me know what you're all thinking of this. And I've been hitting that bell button. I'll see you all in the next one. Later, guys.